The Bay Area has its share of legends. However, none are quite as strange as the story of the Winchester Mystery House, which is now offering safe and socially distanced ways for you to explore in person. The Winchester Mystery House has captured popular imagination. Mythbusters, Ghost Adventures, and Ghost Brothers have all produced programs about the house. It made its spectacular big screen debut with the horror film Winchester in 2018. The film tells a fictionalized version of the story behind the mansion, but many people believe that the truth is far stranger than fiction. When Sarah Winchester's husband, William Wirt Winchester, died in 1881, she became one of the wealthiest women in the world. Unfortunately for Sarah, the fortune came with a dark side. She became convinced that she was cursed. She was certain that relocating was the only way to evade the spirits that plagued her. In 1886, she left her home in New Haven, CT, for a new life in San Jose, California. There, she bought a simple 8-room farmhouse that she would go on to transform into a marvelous, madcap 160-room mansion that would come to be known as the Winchester Mystery House. The sheer size of the house is the first thing you will notice when you arrive. However, that is the least remarkable thing about this attraction. For example, though there are more than 2,000 doors, they don't all lead where you would expect. One opens to a sheer 15-foot drop into an outdoor garden. If you step through another, you will land 8 feet below in a kitchen sink. Some of the staircases in this home are truly peculiar. Instead of taking you to another floor, they lead right into the ceiling. There is a vast network of secret passages twisting throughout the property. One cabinet door opens to a hive of 30 additional rooms. Many visitors are fascinated by the vast collection of windows, more than 10,000, and the fact that some of the loveliest Tiffany stained glass is hidden away where no light can reach it. The biggest question is why? Why did Sarah Winchester continue to make changes until her death? Some say that she believed she would die as soon as the house was declared complete. Others say she created a labyrinth to confuse and evade the spirits that followed her. Whatever you believe the reason is, the Mystery House is sure to stay in your mind long after your visit. The Winchester Mystery House can be found in San Jose, which is about an hour south of San Francisco. If you want to take in some of the other activities available in San Jose, you may wish to rent a car for the trip. Otherwise, public transportation can get you there. Caltrain will take you from San Francisco to the Santa Clara Transit Center, where you can board a bus to the Winchester and Olson stop. Walk or hail a ride about 2 miles to the Winchester Mystery House. The Winchester Mystery House offers 2 different tours, the self-guided mansion tour and the Sarah Winchester Garden Tour, which only allows you to tour the outside gardens. The self-guided mansion tour has been built with social distancing protocols in mind, with one-way tour paths, and features the larger rooms in the mansion. Guests will be able to experience the house like never before, with ample space and time in each room, and be able to tour at their own pace in your space. The mansion tour ticket also includes access to the Victorian Gardens. Unlock the secrets of the Winchester Mystery House, learn about Sarah Winchester's vast estate with all new audio and content. The all-new tour will be entirely outdoors, and a completely touchless experience featuring 20 stops throughout the beautiful Victorian Gardens. Guests can explore this self-guided experience with an audio guide and a digital map. The Winchester Mystery House plus the Tech Initiate buy a bundle pack that includes the Winchester Mystery House and the Tech Initiative, a family-friendly science and technology museum, and make a day out of your time in San Jose. Dragsholm Castle was built in 1215 by the Bishop of Roskilde. It looked more like a palace than a castle. It was fortified during the Middle Ages, and this was done so well that the castle was extremely strong. In fact, it was the only castle still standing after the so-called Count's Feud, 1534-1536. During this war, the Protestant Count Christopher of Oldenburg supported the Catholic Christian II to become king. They sieged Dragsholm Castle, and in 1536 it became the official castle of the Danish crown. It was attacked by the Swedish as well. They tried to blow the castle up and succeeded quite well at that. The king was in massive department after the war, and was forced to sell the castle to a noble. This noble restored the castle and gave it a Baroque style. The nobleman's family died out in 1932, and the castle was turned over to the Central Land Board. They sold the castle to a private owner named J.F. Botker, who turned it into a luxurious hotel. From 1536 to 1664, Dragsholm Castle was used as a prison for noble and ecclesiastical prisoners. Even the last Bishop of Roskilde, whose predecessors owned the castle, was imprisoned, simply because he was against Christian II. He was kept in the large tower at the northeast corner of the castle. The prisons were equipped with toilets and windows, depending on which crime you had committed, and the seriousness of the insults towards the king. Other famous prisoners at Dragsholm were Joachim Rano, James Hepburn, and Edgeler Brockenhuis, who used to be the confidant of the king. There are over 100 ghosts haunting Dragsholm Castle, but a few of them stand out. Psychics and mediums have tried to communicate with these ghosts, and some interesting information came out of that. The last Bishop of Roskilde haunts the castle tower. This is where he was imprisoned. Today, those cells are turned into modern hotel rooms. Guests who have stayed here have reported moaning and wailing sounds from the hallways on the second floor. Edgeler Brockenhuis was once the king's confidant, but somehow, he blew it with the king and ended up in prison. He is nicknamed the Mad Squire because he lost his sanity towards the end of his imprisonment. He was only able to blurt out bitter and abusive dialogues which people were unable to follow. You can still hear him rambling in the corridors near where his cell used to be. James Hepburn, the 4th Earl of Bothwell, also haunts the castle. He was engaged with a Danish-Norwegian woman named Anne Rusting when he took off to Scotland to marry Mary, Queen of Scots. He took Anne's sizable dowry with him. This was a mistake, because when James was accused of murdering the second husband of the Scottish Queen, Lord Darnley, he decided to flee to Denmark. The powerful and humiliated father of Anne Rusting tracked the Earl down and made sure he got his punishment. His days in prison were horrible. He was chained to the wall and was left to die. He was only 44 years old when he passed away in his cell. His ghost is frequently seen at the castle, and he's also seen entering the castle in a ghostly horse-drawn carriage. His mummified body is kept in the nearby Ferevagil Kirch as pictured above. This is a sad story. A lady in white haunts the castle as well. She has been seen by many, and each time she appears to be looking for someone. Great sadness overcomes those who have seen her, and that's not surprising when you hear her story. She is believed to be the ghost of Selina Balds, daughter of the powerful and noble Balds family. Selina fell in love with a commoner who worked at the castle. Selina's father disapproved of the relationship and forbade his daughter to see him again. But Selina loved this man so much, and at some point, she even got pregnant. When her father found out, he was furious and had his own daughter imprisoned. She was chained to the wall, like James Hepburn, but what happened to her was even worse. A wall was built around her and she was left to die. In the 1930s, workers discovered her remains inside the wall in the castle's basement. She was found wearing her white dress. There's a happy ghost living at the Dragsholm Castle as well. The Grey Lady used to be a maid working at the castle. One day she had a terrible toothache, and the master of the castle felt sorry for her. He gave her a poultice which relieved her pain. She died a while later, but still likes to show her gratitude. Her ghost is extremely helpful, does good deeds, and is very protective of the castle. She's often seen at night, guarding the castle in a very happy manner. The beautiful Dragsholm Castle is a luxurious hotel today with beautiful gardens and a golf course. It's located right in the middle of meadows and lakes, which gives it a magical touch. There's even a Michelin-starred restaurant in it. Would you dare to book a room here? Visiting the Poenari Castle in Romania is only for those who have nerves of steel, because if you want to reach the top, you have no other choice than to climb 1480 concrete steps. Don't worry though, the amazing views of the Carpathian Mountains and Arges River make the effort totally worth it. Since I watched Francis Coppola's movie Dracula almost 25 years ago, I have been fascinated, and by fascinated, I mean utterly terrified, with this fictional character. Dracula's link to Transylvania always made me wonder, how this region really looked like. To be honest, it's not even a bit creepy. It's one of the most serene and delightful places in the world. Poenari Castle was the last attraction we visited during our stay in Transylvania, before heading back to Bucharest. The castle, once considered an essential fortress due to its key defensive position, has a strategic location perched, like a giant bat, on a cliff at the foothills of the Carpathian Mountains overlooking the Arges River. Once you get to Poenari Castle and pay the entrance fee, make sure to stretch your legs as you have 1480 steps ahead of you. The only way to the top up is making that climb up. Take your time to climb up as this is a very strenuous hike. It took us around 30 to 35 minutes to reach the top at a medium pace, and we took a couple of breaks in between. The day after the hike our legs were totally sore, and we had a hard time walking, embarrassing for two athletic types. However, the beautiful views of the surrounding valley were imprinted in our minds, making the tough hike totally worth it. As you climb up you will notice there is an electric fence to prevent bears to get close. Bears are the lovable locals, and while some will say bears are friendly towards Romanians, it's best to keep a safe distance. As a precaution, the castle has been closed at times when bears have been spotted wandering nearby. According to the Romania tourism website, the tentative reopening date of the fortress is scheduled for 2022. There are also plans to build a tram car, so visitors can avoid having to climb up the steps. After the arduous climb, just as you reach the top of the castle, you will see two mannequins dressed like impaled prisoners of war. This is a reminder of how one of the owners of the castle and the inspiration for Dracula, Vlad Tepes, dispensed of this enemies. Tip: there are also walkways and handrails available throughout the fortress to make it easier to move among the ruins. As you explore the fortress, remember to soak in the stunning views all around and breathe the crisp mountain air. Vlad Tepes impaled criminals, his eternal nemesis the Turks, and various other enemies, using them as decorations by raising their impaled bodies in the town square for all to see. Nearly any crime, including lying, stealing, or killing, could be punished by impalement, so everyone understood the consequences of their actions. Needless to say, many people behaved. According to the Romania tourism site, Vlad was so confident in the effectiveness of this strategy that he placed a golden cup on display in the central square of Targoviti. The cup could be used by thirsty travelers, but no one was allowed to remove it from the square. The cup was never stolen throughout Vlad's reign. For many of us who live in the modern world, we have to put these cruel methods into context, as Vlad is considered one of the legendary heroes in Romanian history. Peace and commerce thrived during a time where there was little stability due to crime, corruption, and the ever-present threat of invasion from the Turkish Empire. His battles with the Turks, in which he served as the first line of defense for Europe and Christianity, gave birth to his legendary reputation, the protector of Romania. Poenari Castle was built in the 13th century by the first Wallachian rulers, one of the proto-Romanian states, changed names and ownership over the decades. Vlad Tepes, who ruled Wallachia at various times from 1456 to 1462, saw the potential of the castle's location, a strategic vantage point to prevent attacks along with an easily accessible escape route if needed, making it almost impossible to siege. It was essentially an enemy's worst nightmare, even more so when decorated with impaled prisoners. Therefore, when he assumed the throne, he ordered the castle to be repaired and turned it into one of his main fortresses, defending the country against the Ottoman Turks. With its 2/3 meter thick walls and 5 guard towers, it only fell after a long assault by the desperate Turkish army in 1462. When the Turks overran the castle, Vlad was able to escape through a secret passageway that led north through the mountains. Poenari Castle was eventually abandoned in the 16th century and left in ruins. Unfortunately, an earthquake struck the region in the 19th century, destroying the northern section of the fortress. It remained in ruins until 1970, when the Romanian government dedicated resources to repair the castle and transform it into a tourist attraction. Despite a strong link with Dracula, Poenari Castle does not enjoy the same popularity as Bran Castle. Location: Transfiguration, Arevu 117,040. Romania legend has it that when Vlad claimed the throne, He ordered the arrest of all the noble families who were involved in the murder of his father, Vlad II Dracul. As punishment, some nobles were impaled while others were forced to walk from Targoviti, Vlad's capital, to Poenari castle and rebuild the fortress in the place of the old outpost.